says it's recording. So we'll go from there. I'm Paul Holman, the chair of the Public Safety Committee for the Anchorage Assembly. We'll introduce ourselves to the committee and then we'll go through the agenda. Should be a fairly quick light agenda this time, so also with me today,
Ellie Gray Jackson.
Dick Training. And I think Mr. Hall said he might be here in a little bit, but we'll proceed on. Sometimes people get held up. The weather's not the worst it's been earlier in the week, but it's certainly still trying to people dig out.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to recognize Assembly Member-elect Ben Steele.
Absolutely. I was actually going to go around the table here and have everybody introduce. We're a small group, but absolutely. For those that haven't been to the meetings before, we usually reserve on the first part of the agenda the departments that we feel are public safety related, have a direct public safety nexus, and that's fire, police, OEM, and health and human services. So if you wanted to start around the room, I guess.
Rob Fitch with the Office of Emergency Management. Long and feel free.
I'll just move around real quick. Oh, and here comes Janet. We're on tape. We're starting.
I'm just following me, so I feel better.
Good. Okay. And we'll just wait a minute. We'll do the introduction. Good.
Tim Steele. I'm Assemblyman-elect West Anchorage. So I'm just here to see what this committee's all about. See what I need to advocate for when it comes time.
Very good. And Mr. Hall just joined us.
Chris Pashue, Anchorage Fire Department. Seth Weaver, citizen.
You have concern, totally understand.
Al Milsbaugh, with your Community Council Safety Committee.
Very good. So we're going to go and get started. I'm not sure, Chief, you or someone from the police department may be here, but since Chief Pashue is here, he's here early. Chief Pashue, yep.
Things are going along just fine with fire departments. There's, of course, as you dealt with on your body, we dealt with also a lot of angst and issues with AO 37 that it has not affected people's ability to get the job done and do the work, and they're doing just fine in that arena. We are probably right at about 500 applications for the upcoming fire academy. In the past, we've usually been around 700 to 800, but we still got, I think, about a week to run. So oftentimes there's a push right the last couple weeks before the deadline. So and we are on track for that. That's pretty much it for us. Unless you have any questions.
Do myself, any other, I'll start out with, we're coming up with first quarter budget revisions.
Yes.
And I know you and I were supposed to have a brief conversation with perhaps IFF regarding arson investigator. And I'm concerned, and my question to you is, we had two major issues. One is the arson, as you know, the UCR went up last year in one of the areas that did go drastically, and particularly East Anchorage, speaking of the East Anchorage side, we've had a number of arsons that we're trying to chase and track down. So is there intent from your department to try to move to maybe get an adjustment in the first quarter for that?
No, not specifically to add any positions. I had an initiative where I approached the union specifically to make multiple changes in how the fire department conducts business, and we were starting to kind of get some movement, some traction on that. But to be honest with you, when AO 37 came up, we essentially have put a hold on any of those sorts of changes until we kind of know where people are going to sit. And one of those changes was to address the arson problem and getting some resources to bear on that. I would expect that we probably will, but it's kind of hard to explain. But in our organization, when those things happen, it tends to take people back a little bit. And the last thing I want is a distracted workforce. So we agreed to just kind of put a hold on any significant changes until a future date.
Okay. I am an advocate for adding to the arson investigators position.
Yes. Yep.
And if we were able to find money because we had a surplus at the end of the year, we're still not sure where it's at. Money-wise, we'll have a work session Friday. So would there be any opposition if we were to try to at least get an extra body at the arson investigation?
Well, as a city guy, I'm never opposed to adding be in trouble for saying it, but I would, for me personally, in my department, looking at the big picture, yes, we need to do something there. I don't know if adding resources to that specific area would be the best, or would be the choice that I would make. We have had a fire marshal,
He's acting fire marshal. He's not-
acting fire marshal for a very long time. And, he is driving that ship. The guy we have in there, our actor, is doing an excellent job, but he's been acting for over 2 years. I personally would probably categorize filling his position as being a higher priority than the investigator.
And yet, the arson investigator, I've had some conversations and watched the little session that they had on Channel 2. One where there were 3, then 2, now 1.
Yeah.
I mean, the fire marshal doesn't actually technically go out and investigate.
No, no. But his role in the overall scheme of things is pivotal to the department, what we do. And again, I'm not dissing the arson investigator, but I do have some plans in the works, hopefully that will bolster his abilities and bolster his resources. Again, when you look at the big picture across the board of what we're trying to accomplish in the fire department, to me personally, if you said here's a position or something like that, I would point those resources toward that fire marshal seat.
Sounds like you may need 2.
As I said,
Well, let's have a
city guy.
conversation then. I
Okay.
really am sincere
Yeah.
about our concern. I mean, again, we had 3, we're down to 1. Arsons are going up. He's chasing his tail.
Yep,
My
and
understanding
he's a
is,
one-man show.
right. And my understanding is he could leave and maybe we'd be really with nothing.
Yes, I'd say
My
that's a
concern
fair
is-
possibility, yeah.
We also knew that there was issues about overtime and a tanker. I know you've been working hard on trying to work that. I know that we looked at last night when the projections that they're showing that your overtime was a little over what was budgeted last year, 2012.
Yes.
And so, how are you set for this year? Are we going to need to adjust that for overtime for Collins?
If we had to adjust it, I wouldn't, I could make some guesses on how we could adjust it, but until we get a little bit further in the year, and I know how my vacancies occur, how many people we're going to be able to hire, how soon we're going to get them on, all those sorts of pieces and parts, I wouldn't anticipate needing an adjustment at this point. We do have a very hefty overtime budget. We run on overtime right now, at least in my primitive projections, we're staying within this window of acceptability for the
So
year.
there's no risk at the tanker being shut down and out of service because of overtime concerns?
At this point, no. The tanker will be open now. A few more, 3 more, 4 more months into the year, depending on how vacancies go, all those sorts of factors, there is a potential that it will be shut down again if I do not have the staffing or the money to do it.
Any committee members?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and so your academy is projected to start when, sir?
Again, right now, I told the direction I gave was to get it ready to go, have people ready to walk through the door on July 1.
July 1st.
But I've not been given a green light to do that. And again, that's one of those things that depends on how many people I lose between now and then. As soon as I can see that I'm going to be spending more on overtime, that it will cost me to hire a full-time employee, that will set the date for the academy. At a certain point, as you know, it is cheaper to pay that overtime than hire a full-time person.
Mr. Trent?
Chief, you said we're down about 200 applications, where we traditionally are. Can you chart when 37 took effect to see if 37's been the reason we haven't had as many people put in for a job? Because I want to know if the police department's seeing the same thing.
I would say no, we wouldn't be able to chart it. The end result would be when it closes. I think the simplest, crudest measure would be how many got this year versus how many got last year. And you just have to guess at what would be the reason for that variation. Changes in the economy.
There's one thing we were afraid of with 37, if we'd see a downtrend amount of people putting into the job.
Oh, yeah, it was a concern very much for me also.
Thank you, Chief, appreciate it.
have specific questions, or did you want me to report on
Go
certain
ahead and
topics?
report if you would, or maybe, Mr. Drain.
I just wanted to let you know, we got first quarter budget revisions coming up, and one of my proposals is gonna be to take out that $6,600 you get for signing for Form 4s.
Oh, I assumed that you were up to something.
I'm up to something, because they've already sent you, and you wanna know why Dick wants to know, and I'm sending it out to Everybody Belongs Gun Club, so you probably get, for my colleagues, hundreds of calls from people, please wipe it out. It serves no function because people can just get around you by creating an NFA gun trust. So you'll never even see the people getting these weapons, and they don't have to pay the money, because you completely bypass the police on that. So, since that route's
How do they do that?
you create an NFA gun trust. It's a legal entity you create that then owns the weapons, and you respond directly with the NFA branch. You bypass, they bypass you completely.
But somebody still looks at it.
No, NFA branch does, you don't.
Yeah, but somebody, feds do.
Yeah, but you don't.
Okay.
So, just to let you know, I'm going back after that again.
I
thought I'd
well,
tell
you saw our numbers, so you know
No,
what
no.
they are.
I know there. I just wanted you to know ahead of time.
Yeah, report.
I didn't know, well, let's see. I didn't know what topics you wanted to.
No, we wanted like academy status, I'm sure the same question on that, but.
Okay, well, I guess here's what I think our challenge is going to be for this next year. I think it's a chance we're going to lose a fair number of officers for a variety of reasons. One, we've been talking about this for quite a while, but there is an incentive for people to retire before January 4th. And I believe that we're seeing the signs that there's going to be a lot of interest in doing that. We're recruiting, of course, for an academy that would start up in late October, early November. The recruiting is not going as well as the last academy. The numbers are lagging, and the no-show rate is high. So we'll expect a certain number of people to show up for a test, and I could get you the exact numbers. I don't have them in my head, but I'm going to tell you that it's going to be roughly around half the people are just not even showing up for the test.
If you just get us numbers later, Chief, I'd appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So my question is, why do you think there's a decrease in recruitment efforts? Well, not efforts, but people that are interested.
Well, last time we didn't have to recruit very hard. It had been a long time since we had posted, and people flooded to us, and we didn't have to put a great deal of effort into doing that. This go around, one of the reasons might be we scooped the interest last year, and so there might be less of it in town this year. That might be part of it. I'll tell you that a lot of the budget and labor issues that people hear about, I think, have affected things. I can only tell you this anecdotally, that we had recruiters at the sportsman show, and people were looking at us, the recruiters report that people would look at the booth puzzled and say, I thought you laid off 60 cops and the law changed and now you can't make any money or whatever. They're not following the news very closely. They remember the budget debate from the summer where there was potential large amount of layoffs. They heard about AO 37 and they just kind of, the impression we're getting is that we're just off the radar screen. People just got the general impression something's up with the police department and there's no reason to go over there. But that's anecdotal. I don't know that I can say for sure that that's the cause. But certainly this year has been difficult to generate interest. We're trying to
follow up and make a comment. I'm really concerned, not just for myself, but for the almost 300,000 citizens that live in this community, because I said it publicly and I'll say it again. I mean, there are other issues too, but I really firmly believe that AO 37, you know, is gonna cause our, it's gonna be an issue recruiting folks and cause folks to really leave. And it's gonna be open season in this community for criminals, and that's really frightening. And I hope that we can figure out how to work through that, because people are paying attention to what's
Well, I can
happening.
tell you that 2 departments are recruiting APD very hard. Bellevue, Washington is offering to honor their seniority, essentially. In other words, if you have 14 years experience with APD, if you hire at Bellevue, they will give you 14 years of,
Credited service.
yeah, so you know, wherever you sit on your shift, you got the horsepower of a 14-year person. Denver wants to hire 140 cops, from what I understand. This is all scuttlebutt. I haven't called Denver, so I don't really know. They have a DOJ consent decree, and they must be trying to beef up and do some things. But scuttlebutt has it that Denver's offering to buy out retirements if people will pick up and move. They'll pay the difference and hold them harmless, so they go into Denver with the same, not losing ground towards retirement. So I think those things are probably working against our efforts at retention at this point. I mean, people who are able to go are telegraphing that they're probably going to go. People who normally wouldn't be able to go may have avenues to go now. They have 401ks, and so they're portable. And if somebody's offering them seniority, offering them whatever they would lose by picking up their 401k, you know, there may be incentive to leave, and we could end up being a training camp for other departments.
Mr. Train? I'm thinking about the hundreds of people who listened to their testimony with 37, and that's what they were telling us when they were testifying, that if this change takes effect, and I'm offered a job somewhere else, it pays more, I'm going. And that's what we're gonna see with a lot of these people. But you're recruiting, are you still going to Elmendorf monthly to talk to people who are getting out of Elmendorf? Because they've got a monthly seminar where they invite employers in.
I know that we've been going to all sorts of different events. I can't tell you if we've been to that one or not, but I'll put it on the list.
552-4943.
Called TAPS.
552
I did it for years, I
Five-
ran the program.
5943.
4943.
4943?
Yes, and talk to Sheila Brodigam. I couldn't spell her last name, just Sheila. And what they do is once a month they run a seminar for everybody getting out of the Air Force Base. It's a good chance for you to talk to them, Chief. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, and what was the acronym?
TAP. TAPS.
I thought that meant something different.
No, it's transition program for everybody getting out of the military.
Transatlantic Pipelines?
Yeah, and there's transition.
And other stuff.
The military's putting a lot more care into people getting out of the military to make sure they've got opportunities to find jobs on the outside. I don't know how you guys relate to people getting out of the Army, but they've got a huge push for the Army personnel. They
Yeah,
want to find
we
jobs.
usually pick up several, you know, military makes up a lot of our recruits, probably because the military, you know, they keep them on the straight and narrow, so they don't tend to stray into areas that wash them out.
I just want to make sure you guys know about it, that's all. That's all, Paul, thank you.
Control?
So,
Yeah. You know, Chief, we all understand where the divide here. I was a yes on AO 37, and my 3 compadres here were a no vote. I think that our police department is well paid. I'm not saying we're over the top, but I think our compensation is very good. It would be very attractive to the private sector. I have no doubt that there are departments out there that are recruiting, and they're recruiting because they need police officers. They're not necessarily recruiting because of the fact that, you know, they're up here trying to get people. We all hurt when we run people through an academy, whether it's police or fire, and they immediately move away. But there's a tremendous amount of misinformation out there about AO 37. There's not an officer that's going to lose still there. I don't know, I think once they get a look at it and see what it did, if they make the choice to move, they make the choice to move. But what I do believe is we've got to get a plan in place to be prepared to prepare what's going to happen with the financial future of the state of Alaska. And I guarantee you, the state's fixing to start cut budgets like crazy. I have no doubt it's going to have an impact on us here. And we're going to see the day that there's going to be a state income tax, a state sales tax, the whole bit's coming. So if we can come up with a plan at this point in time to be able to make our community financially stable and ensure that we're able to do that with our employees, I think that's going to be a big plus, because we're starting to see cities tumble in the lower 48, Stockton, California being the last one. So there's communities out there that are doing okay. There's others that are not doing all that well. And, I hope what we do is have the foresight to put fiscal plans into place so we can maintain stability with all of our employees. So
I'm not, and I hope you didn't misinterpret, or I hope I didn't send a signal I didn't need to send. I'm not weighing in. I'm not saying that I was trying to avoid the issue before or against AO 37.
I understand.
I work for the mayor, and I understand that there are management rights in there that would be good for us to have. I'm not saying that. I can't prove that AO 37 is the issue. We have other real issues. There is the incentive for people to retire by January 4th. They get a big buyout if they do that. I'm just telling you that I think the employees, rightly or wrongly, are looking favorably at some of these offers, and I think it's going to, the way the talk is, it's probably going to have an impact on our numbers in the short term. Whether it's wise for them to do that or not, whether they have fears that are worse than anything that I think is going to happen to them. But if they believe it and they think the pastures are greener in Bellevue, they might go anyway. I don't want to see it happen, but I think there's a chance it is happening.
I think there's a chance that I'm seeing business people in this community that are pulling back and looking at, because they're very concerned about the state losing $1 billion a year in revenue and what that's going to impact. It's not going to be anything that's going to stimulate our economy statewide, is for sure. So I think there's a number of elements at play here, but enough said about any of the above. I just hope that you have a successful recruitment for the academy.
Well, we hope so too. So if anybody here knows someone, please send them our way.
I'll just say that I have been trying that, but there's also state troopers are hiring. And I've lost a former neighbor who has moved to the valley, who's interested in APD, who's leaving the military, a field officer. And I got a call from the troopers backgrounding today. So whether or not he makes it, I don't know. But he's a trained pilot. As you know, we stock the ranks APDs traditionally enjoyed both the military bases in West Point, graduates and people at lots of different degrees and skills that come to us, not just the military, but that's just one area. I'm seeing the concern.
Yeah. On a totally different topic, moving away from that. I don't know that any of us have any idea about what suddenly seems to be happening, but we just seem to be having an incredible rash of officer-involved shootings, both state and city. And number one, let me tell you, I understand this is officers responding to somebody being very aggressive toward them and putting them in I'm not saying that there hasn't been one of them that they're justified, but do we have any idea of what it is that's suddenly causing people within the state of Alaska to take this aggressive stand? We seem to be in
us are both seeing, we think, the same trend. They had 8 either in the last 12 months or in 2012. I'm not sure which that is, but roughly the same time period that we had our 5. So we think we're seeing, we don't know if it's a spike. In 2 years from now, we'll be looking back and saying it was a spike one way, or if there actually is a trend. But that's what we're trying to discover. And so I think, starting in this next week or so, I meet with SAC on Friday, and we'll start setting the meetings up. But we're going to start trying to dig in to the data, review the cases, find the trends, read the research. The study came out coincidentally the day that so it was Monday when we were given our press conference. The university was publishing the assault against officer study. I don't know if you guys saw it or not. We gave it to the media. They appended it to the news story that day.
They haven't sent it to us yet. I wish they would.
It's a public document. I can send it to you guys.
You would, please.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Do you have a gang assembly email that I
Yeah.
can?
City clerk should get it to me.
Okay. So it shows trends for, unfortunately, it's 2002 to 2011. It doesn't show 2012, which is the big year for both us and troopers. But it breaks down all the assaults against officers and the trends over the last few years. And the general trend is trending up quite a bit. Now, it breaks it down from there, and the assaults with weapons might be different from the assaults without weapons. The assaults for troopers, and it shows the difference between APD, AST, and all other departments in Alaska. So those are the 3 groups it compares. And so the trends are not always the same between us and troopers. We see way more of the kicking, punching, choking type stuff, and they see more of the gun stuff. But it's a very interesting study. It doesn't attempt to explain anything, but it breaks down the trends that are measurable. Unfortunately, it doesn't deal with 2012. The data is not that fresh. But that's a completely independent study. We didn't even know they were doing it. So we're going to use that study. I mean, and we're looking at a study from Madison. The Madison Police Department dropped its officer-involved shootings by 47%. I don't know yet how. I'm just starting to read the study. The DCs are a little bit ahead of me on that. Maybe they disarmed 47% of their cops. I don't know what they did, but they brought it down, and so we'll try and see what worked in Madison and see if that's applicable here. I don't know if it's our behavior as opposed to the behavior on the street. If you look at the study, it suggests the behavior on the street is getting worse. That might be the bigger part of the picture. But we're gonna look into all those things and try and make some sense of it and come up with some plan, some strategy to turn the trend around if we can.
I would hope so. I think honestly what we're having is just a general tendency not to respect authority, period. I know educators had it on the classroom. It's becoming a real issue between students respecting a teacher, a civilian respecting a law officer. It just seems that we've got that group in the community more. It's like, big deal. I just soon shoot you as I had somebody else. There used to be that thing that occurred that if a police officer asked you to do something, you respected that. It used to be if a teacher asked you to do something in the classroom, you respected that. But that seems to be breaking down in our society, and I'm afraid we're going to see a whole lot more of that tendency to occur. I hope not, but...
Well, one thing it seems, I don't know that we've got identified hard trends yet, and I want to look and see what the troopers' trends are looking like. But anecdotally, it seems to me we're getting a lot of more cases where people are trying to run the cops down. They're on foot and they're trying to run them down. That's precipitated shootings in 2 or 3 cases that I can think of recently, maybe more than 3, but 3 for sure. Is shooting the best response? I mean, it's a legal response. Is it the best response? Were there other responses? I mean, those are the kind of things we're going to have to look at. I don't remember how many of those we had, you know, it didn't seem like they were always trying to run us over. They're ramming our cars like crazy and trying to run over the cops when they're on foot. So a lot of them seem to come out of situations like that, more than I remember in the past.
Mr. Trent?
Chief, is age a factor in this?
Surprisingly, you take a guess. What demographic do you think is doing the shooting?
The young kids?
I would have thought so too. 16 years is the average, and it spikes. In this university study, the little chart shows like 1 to 5 years, looks like that for officers involved in shootings, and then I don't know, 5 to
Are you talking about the officers age?
10 to 15, yeah, 15-year officers goes like that.
But I'm wondering the age of the person getting involved in police.
That,
Not
I
the
don't
age
know.
of the year, but I want to know if there's a corollary between the age of the person that's doing the running or shooting and the police officer.
Don't know, but that's something we could look at.
Because this
Anecdotally,
younger
it seems to me
generation
that-
we have is all electronic driven. Everything is reset. Real life isn't reset.
It
Which
seems
makes
to
it
me
seem
that
you
most
can't
of the
go
ones I think of this last year were young. Not Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith was my age. But all the other ones I'm thinking about right now were probably in
It
their
would
20s.
just be interesting to see across the country if we have a spike with the young people. They're getting in trouble beyond what they can handle.
Chief, just in closing on this topic, I know we're moving into the next time. Can you keep us posted if you find any developments? Certainly, as you know, we'll start getting complaints or concerns from community groups and citizens, and push to try to do something, a task force or something. And I know we have the Minority Community Police Relations Task Force, obviously looking into those situations where the offender who was shot was in the minority area. But just want to make sure that we're kind of kept posted as to what you're finding and what we can do to help in that regard, whether it's information, education, or just being able to better respond if it needs to come to some law changes.
Well, one of the other things you should know that we're doing is we're revamping our response to resistance policy, just because it needs constant revision. It's nothing you ever let sit still. You want to change it as technology and standards and social the society's expectations change. So these policies are going to evolve. The Minority Task Force is created a subcommittee. I've had the members of the subcommittee sign non-disclosure agreements, and they're going through our policies right now, so that one, I can educate them, and two, I can take their suggestions. I have made them no promises that I'll use their suggestions, but I definitely will listen to what they have to say. And we've invited into that discussion the ACLU and the University Justice Center. Dr. Payne, Troy Payne, is sort of an expert on use of force policies around the country, so I wanted him in that discussion as well. So that process is ongoing, and when we're done, we will have a new policy, one that's at least a community group and some experts have looked at. And we probably, my guess is we may end up publishing the policy for the first time publicly, or maybe a layman's version of it.
Explanation.
And maybe publish it in various languages on our website, so that the people don't understand us very well, and we have to do better at changing that.
Well, I think Mr. Hall may have said something right in closing and moving to the other units here. Just basically being told to understand that when the police, you have the right to contest and challenge a stop, you have the right to contest and challenge an arrest, pretty much everything. But in the field is not the time to resist or not respond appropriately when a police ask or say to do something, to do it. And sometimes, perhaps it's because we are changing as a community. It just needs to be a good reminder and constant refresher. So those are just some things that might be considered. But thank you for the explanation of the efforts that are going on. Look forward to hearing more on that. But that was on the part of the discussion too. So thank you so much. Mr. Fitch, I'm sorry you got your probably right line, Mr. Bashir.
That's all right.
continued its service. There was a little surge at Diamond last week, but also Chubiak, Gruning, and Bowman schools have shown some increased absences, so we're assuming it's from that. Now, what's interesting about this is the Thursday before, we had a report of a recall on a food product that came in, Pizza Bites or something, but, so, we didn't know that was playing into it by the time we heard about, the onset of the illness, which started happening on Friday. But we do work collaboratively with the state. Nancy Edel, who is the executive director of the school district, wasn't in, of course, for those 2 days, so then they contacted the Department of Health, and that's how we started getting involved and working with the state to gather, stool samples. And, so we don't need to gather anymore of those. We have confirmed that it is norovirus, and we're doing what we can to educate. The school did send out a call down to the parents to let them know, and I think you probably saw the article in the newspaper that came out Friday. Also, you should be aware, although we don't want to cause too much of a concern, but there is a new avian flu in China. As of April 4th, 14 cases were reported. It is bird to human. There's been no human to human. All patients were hospitalized with severe respiratory illness, and 6 of those have died. It's called H7N9. Sorry. 13 of the cases were in adults aged 27 through 87, and 1 case was a child 4 years old. So it doesn't appear to be selective as far as age. And the Center for Disease Control continues to investigate the situation, so we don't have any cases here, but it is a concern for us that we're keeping an eye on.
No, just I was looking at the press today on that, the Chinese general over there is blaming us for that. He says it's an attack by the Americans.
Really?
So we'll get blamed for everything somewhere.
The other thing is you had talked about first quarter budget revisions, and frankly, I put this in as first quarter budget revision because I didn't even, and I don't know if it made it in, but it is $199,000 that we, for the Anchorage Safety Center, that we are no longer getting as a federal grant through South Central Foundation.
Yes.
Even though we've never heard officially from South Central, we're just assuming since we haven't heard from them, and it's been probably a month, 2 months now. So, that is something that is of great concern to us that we get. And frankly, we're looking at overtime costs. We've been up at 100 in the safety center. Of course, the weather changes have probably affected that, but we would now be winding down coming out of this season. But continuing funding of that $1.5 million contract is a concern for us.
So you put that into this quarter budget revision?
Well, I submitted it, I haven't double checked with
Do
you.
me
but
a
I
favor,
imagine-
send it to the clerk to make distribution to
Yes.
us.
Okay,
Because if it doesn't get
yes.
through the system, I want to know about it so we can get some power in this end to put it back in there. So, thank you.
Staffing one, food inspectors,
Okay, the staffing wise, we were rejected by ER from hiring a standardization officer in our food safety and sanitation division because we lost that position when we lost some positions in that area, but they suggested perhaps a supervisor could do that. Well, the supervisor now has air quality employees because we cut the air quality program as well as environmental services employees, which are our health inspectors. And we're supposed to be inspecting, anything from bed bugs to the restaurants, to the coffee shops, to beauty salons.
same thing and contacted everybody and asked, you know, were you feeling anything or whatever, so.
Well, we have to try to find the source. We're having another teleconference with the state tomorrow morning. But, you know, because of the call that came in that said it possibly could be, I mean, there's a certain allowable amount of potential for E. coli on certain foods, but if you heat those up and they're not touched by a food handler, then that can be eliminated. But then if you have lettuce, like they put on a Subway sandwich or something, and there's a food handler that handles that. Dr. Brian from the state and our food safety and sanitation supervisor went out to the schools to inspect the areas to see if there was something of concern there, but they didn't find anything. They really just were looking to educate them and trying to find the source.
Thank you very much. And if you don't mind, we had one issue that maybe perhaps some of the Mr. Fitch, you may or may not think, but we have a gentleman here reference an issue that in the community that has seen and reared its head all too frequently. There was some discussion about a year ago. We were working towards some changes to the law on non-consensual towing practices and rates. So, sir, if you'd introduce yourself again and just explain what went on.
Okay, thank you for having me. I'm Seth Weaver, and I'm a UA student. This is my last semester, actually. But I just have some concerns about the non-consensual towing. Right now, there's really no regulation to limit the price amount that a private operator can go out and tow a private vehicle off private property, and while the owner of the vehicle does not consent to the tow. And there's been really a lot of arguments against it and for it, and a lot of the arguments against it is because there's a lot of federal laws that prevent us from creating this type of ordinance. One of them is the Federal Motor Carrier Law, and the other one is the Safe, Accountable, Flexible, Efficient Transportation Equity Act, a legacy for users. And both laws really preempt any state or local regulation on these laws. And they're really concerned about, well, you're going to mess with the market. You can't really tax a private company because they have the right to commerce and stuff like that. And a lot of the regulations, they said, they went to the courts and they said that they can't regulate intrastate commerce. And that was really the reason they used. And that's why they haven't really been able to create regulation. So they did put a little instance in there, I guess, that said that they can regulate safety and the price of non-consensual tows, and that state and municipalities can do that. So I just don't see any reason why we can't create some type of ordinance to regulate this more, because like I personally got towed, and that's really why I was kind of bullying into this, you know, because I parked in an area and there was really no signs there, and I was in the building not more than 15 minutes, and I came back out, my car's gone, and there's a huge sign there when my car was gone, $340. And if I couldn't pay that, they could charge me $30 every day to hold the car there until I could pay it. And that would have been $900 in a month if I couldn't pay it. I mean, the citizens really, I don't really know very many citizens that have $900 that can just, especially college students, that can go out and get their car out, you know. So it's really a failure of government to not regulate this. And there really needs to be some type of ordinance to regulate this. And if there's, the tow trucks have a contract with the city, and their rates are about $100, you know. So if the tow companies can go and contract with the government to tow cars for $100, there's really no reason why they can't do that. Say 25%, they can make 25% more than the contract with the government, and that's pretty reasonable in my opinion. And there's a current regulation that we have that says that all towing operators must submit. It's kind of a crop, pardon my language, but it was all the towing operators have to do is generate their rates they want to charge, submit it to the city, or to the clerk's office. The clerk's office publishes it, and boom, it's good. So hypothetically, you can charge $1,000, submit it to the clerk's office publishes it, and you can go out and charge $1,000 for people to get their cars. And the government should really protect the citizens, and that's really the government's job, is to
chair of the body, I know you may or may not be aware that the ombudsman has recently received a few instances, reports where, again, when we had this discussion, and as Mr. Trainee knows, this is not the first time we've heard of the issues or the concerns. We've done some extensive work. In fact, our Assembly Council, Ms. Tucker, researched, as you just described, some of the laws that, the federal laws where deregulation has occurred, and we're not allowed to regulate their actual interest of their business, much like we can't tell a plumber they can't charge a certain rate either. The difference is that a plumber's not gonna walk into your house and fix your plumbing for you and then hand you a bill without your consent. In this particular mode, there are 3 ways a car can get towed, and the first one is, of course, consent, and the last one you cover, which is the government intervenes and says it's blocking the road, there's a car crash, they're either deceased or they're very seriously ill, injured, and they've got to go to the hospital, we've got to take care of the car. A lot of other mechanical things behind it. Those two, the first being consensual, they can charge you $1,000, and if you agree to it, that's fine. There's nothing government can say that otherwise. The opposite is, on the government rate, it is very highly contracted, it has a bid process, and most often people that opt into those rotational tows have to conform with those rates. So it's that non-consent one that has been the booger that we've been trying to deal with. And frankly, we are, and I just, for the body, I intend to have by at least by the end of May, have this resolved, because we were this close already. We were needing some analysis on rates in particular. I know that like for instance, the police chief is not really interested in trying to tie private rates to the government rates, because then the industry may come back to government and say, we'd like you to make your rates higher so we can charge more to the other. It's you know, because they won't bid lower rates, and in essence, everybody loses. So if their bid is $200, you just pay double what you would normally would have paid $100 if you were involved in a car crash. So we're being very careful not to link too tightly that particular thing. But there is an answer, and we're getting closer, and we have some analysis, and I'm looking forward to meeting with the ombudsman, and we'll have I intend to put something on the table for the body to look at, consider, and we will certainly have public hearings, so stand by for that.
Paul, is there any chance that the rate setting could be done by somebody like the Transportation Commission?
No.
But they could look at our rates as a benchmark and try and make a comparison there?
I believe they can, Mr. Trent.
Not if Debbie's ordinance passes, it wipes out the Transportation Commission.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it's gonna happen.
I know, but nonetheless, I have to let you know.
But I don't mind whatever Mindy negotiates for the government tow. I don't mind that being considered as some sort of a base rate.
Right.
But what I'm worried about is people who aren't interested in that work may come to those discussions and somehow we'll have how would I say this carefully? Some tow companies aren't interested in the low government rate, but they might appear to become interested and get involved in the process so that the government rate gets higher, so that their rate will then get higher.
Right.
And we have different interests in the police department, and then we're just an enforcement outfit, and suddenly now we're involved in the profit margins of different businesses and different interests, and it doesn't seem like that's.
The other entity is hire a contractor to do nothing but government rate tows, and for a fee that comes out, either internally or externally through a contract, and then that leaves us wide open to the market. The market then becomes what people are going to pay, or what government says. So then it would take out that third tow. It would just basically be a consensual tow or a non-consensual tow, because government would take care of itself when it's a contract. Rates, setting its own. But then you got impound yard, and there's a whole lot of animals that you deal with there. So this is not just an easy. It seems like, yes, you're absolutely right. We are involved in trying to protect the consumer and enforce, of course, all of our constituents, including visitors who come in from out of town and may not know our rules and rates. But realistically, and this is where I think we've internally have some adjustments needed internally, which is what is reasonable, because that's the issue in the code, is they can charge a reasonable rate. They can put a posting to what is reasonable. We, or our office internally, haven't determined that specifically, what is reasonable or unreasonable. So, and it's difficult to hand somebody a piece of paper and say, well, this is reasonable, this isn't. We have to define it a little better. We're working towards that end, sir, and I assure you that we'll have something introduced by May.
Can I say something else?
Yes.
I mean, I just don't understand why it's taking so long and what the big deal is. I mean, there's really no issue. I mean, this federal law does allow states and municipalities to regulate the price of towing, and that does not interfere in the market. And I mean that's a straight up failure of government for vultures, towing operators to prey on these citizens to charge them whatever amount because it's non-consensual. I mean, I understand the part where it's consenting or if you're contracted with the government, but if it's non-consenting, I mean, the tow operators don't even have to ask the private property owner for permission to tow that vehicle. They just have to have a contract for like a general contract, not for each individual tow. You know, I mean, it's just there's really no issue, and I just don't see what the issue is.
It sounds simple, sir, and all I can explain to you is that through our analysis and our research, it isn't as simple as it seems. It isn't.
Yeah, I think he's right. I got to tell you, it's very complicated when you get into it. And we've had some really, I think everybody wants to get where you want to go, except for a few people that are making a lot of money on the deal. But it's been sticky. We've been working on it for a while.
What's so hard about it? I mean, I don't. What is so hard?
Well, again.
Well, you want the police department setting profit levels for private enterprise that doesn't have anything to do with the police department?
No, with the government should.
Now, that's the issue, is how far should government go? I give you the plumber analysis. And again, I tell you, you're not gonna have somebody just drop by and start working in your house and then give you a bill and tell you what it is. But we're working it, and I assure you that we'll have something before it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Seth happened to be Mr. Trainee, my constituent, and we invited him to this meeting with the consent of Mr. Honeman. But anyway, you know, he told us his story, and frankly, I've been working on this also with Mindy and Title IX revision for a long time also. You know, because this is not the first time that we've had a constituent talk about predator towing. And things, and I understand all the issues that are involved, but I tell you, if somebody took my car, I'd be just as pissed off.
Oh, I agree.
Period.
I agree.
You know, but anyway, we're working to make the situation better, if you will. And I really would appreciate it if you can, you know, work with us. Yeah, and continue to, you know, we have work sessions, and when the document is ready, take a look at it, and we really would appreciate having your input as well as input from others. And you can work with us on this even before it's introduced at an assembly meeting. Okay? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anything else? Mr. Moscone, do you have any issues that? Mr. Steele? No.
I don't have any thanks for allowing me to sit in, lug in information. So I'm just trying to figure out which way the rabbits are running.
And I think we've got a couple folks from the tow industry here. No? Taxi, I'm sorry, taxi. I wanted to give you guys, sorry. I wanted to give everybody a heads up, last night's meeting, for the body we know, the taxi ordinance, Title 11 revision that Ms. Osander had presented is being postponed for review by the Transportation Commission at their next scheduled meeting, and will be before this body in May, second Wednesday in May. And so we will have, I believe it's coming back to before us, the third. Second or third meeting in the Assembly of May. So we will be discussing that particular ordinance. We're particularly interested in what the Transportation Commission's input will be, and certainly if you know anybody that wants to give us some ideas based on what you read, please let us know. With that, we're right at about 1 o'clock, and we can adjourn the meeting. Thank you. Kristen, do I just push stop here, or push record again?
Or you can go to